Don't waste your time setting your saddle height like this or like this when there are so many variables and so much potential for error. Why not use the same process that bike fitters around the world do? I'm about to show you all of the problems with those traditional methods, and then I will show you exactly how to set your saddle height yourself at home, just like a bike fitter would, cheaply and simply. Traditional methods to set bike saddle height, which use inseam equations or heel to pedal contact, are simple to use, but they have many associated complications. Ultimately, they are all designed to give the rider an optimal knee angle when pedaling. So why don't we just bypass these outdated processes and go straight to the outcome that we're looking for. In this video, I'll answer all of your questions about setting the correct saddle height. Why is it important to get this right? What are the various techniques that are being used to set saddle height? What are the pros and cons of each of these techniques? What do bike fitters do? And how can you follow the same process to get the best outcome at home? Why bother fine-tuning your saddle height? Achieving the perfect saddle height is a small part of a much bigger bike fit process. Bike fitting is a science and sometimes the art of tailoring each adjustable component of the bicycle to perfectly match the needs of the cyclist. It's like having a work ergonomic assessment, but for sport. Our goals are to improve rider comfort, reduce the risk of injury, enhance performance, improve rider safety. What techniques have been recommended to set saddle height? If we start with off the bike, leg length measurement ideas, probably one of the most popular is the Le Monde method. Named after three-time Tour de France winner Greg LeMond, this method simply needs the length of your inseam multiplied by 0.883 to recommend a distance from the centre of the bottom bracket of your bike to the top of the saddle along the effective seat post angle. This is a fairly simple process to go through. Firstly, find a hardcover book or any other solid rectangular object like a chopping board. Second, stand in bare feet on a solid floor alongside a wall. Third, raise the book between your legs as high as you can to the top of your inseam. Fourth, while maintaining it square to the wall, place a pencil mark at the top of the book on the wall. Pro tip, use masking tape. Number 5, measure the distance from the ground to this mark. As you can see, this is a very quick technique and most people can manage to do this on their own without assistance. However, there are a number of problems and inconsistencies with the way this method is both described and used. Should you be wearing chamois bike shorts or normal thin shorts? A thin book might lead to a higher mark on the wall than a thick book. What if the book is not exactly square to the wall, or if it moves while you're trying to make the mark? And the final result on the bike can be influenced by a number of factors unrelated to your inseam length, such as crank length, foot length, cleat position, pedal stack height, shoe sole and inner sole thickness, saddle fore and aft and saddle tilt, the amount of sag within the foam of your saddle, and regardless of the position of your saddle, where does your pelvis actually rest on your saddle currently? Also, if you are translating this measurement to a suspension bike, where the seat post is not a straight line from the bottom bracket to the saddle, or if you have an offset seat post, then there may be additional confusion. The Hamley method, which predates the Le Monde method, eliminates one key variable, a very contentious variable, I might say, which is that of crank length. At the time of recording, which is late in 2024, debate is raging as to whether the cycling community generally should be riding with shorter cranks. If you use the Hamley method, then you don't need to worry whether you're on the short crank train or not. In this case, you will take the exact same inseam measurement that you used for the Le Monde method, but this time you'll multiply by 1.09. This will give you a recommended distance from the centre of the pedal spindle, along the crank, along the seat tube, to the top of the saddle. Although this method eliminates the crank length issue, it has many of the same problems and inconsistencies as the Le Monde method, and it introduces 2 new ones. Firstly, where should the pedal be positioned and what angle should the crank arm be at? Most descriptions have the pedal at the furthest point from the saddle along the seat post at around 5 o'clock. However, sometimes it is described with the crank arm and the pedal sitting at 6 o'clock. So which one is it? Secondly, this technique is sometimes discussed as being measured from the centre of the pedal spindle and other times is discussed from the top of the pedal. Common pedal systems will have a stack height up to 17 millimetres and pedals can vary in their stack height by about 10 millimetres. So this is a huge potential variable for the end height of the saddle. So let's now examine a method which just involves the rider sitting on the bike. The heel on pedal method is the first technique that I came across for setting saddle height when I bought my first brand new carbon road bike from my local bike shop back in 2015. Here, instead of using an inseam measurement, you simply take your natural position on the bike saddle. Ideally, you'd have your bike set up on an indoor trainer, but you could do this, keeping your bike vertical while balancing against a wall. Then you move your foot so that the heel of your bike shoe is resting on the centre of the pedal. If your bike is positioned on the ground, then you'll have to pedal backwards. However, if you're on an indoor trainer, you can go in either direction. The idea is that the heel will just maintain contact with the pedal all the way through the stroke. If your heel lifts off the pedal at the lowest point in the stroke, or if you have to rock sideways to maintain contact, then your saddle needs to come down. If your knee is still bent at the lowest point, or you feel more than just light contact on the pedal, then your saddle is too low. This method avoids the issue of different crank lengths and saddle fore-aft position, as we are seeing the direct engagement of your leg between the saddle and the pedal. Pedal stack height, saddle foam compression, effective seat post angle, and bib chamois thickness are all removed as potential variables. But again, there are still some problems with this technique. Most significantly is the variation in the thickness of the heel stopper on your shoe designed to protect the sole when you are walking. If your heel stopper is particularly thick and chunky, then your end saddle position is going to end up too high. Some bike shoes have much thinner heel stoppers and some shoes have barely any at all, or maybe yours have completely worn away. I've even seen some videos online saying to do this barefoot, so again, complete lack of consistency. Also, we will still have to account for relative foot length, rider preference for relative toe down or heel down while pedaling, and also the position of the cleat under the sole of the shoe. Why bother with these techniques and all of these variables when we can just go straight to the desired outcome first? One thing that all three of these methods have in common is that they are trying to create a specific and ideal knee angle during the pedal stroke. So what is the angle and where in the pedal stroke? In the early days of bike fitting, the consensus was to aim for between 25 and 35 degrees of knee bend when the pedal was at bottom dead centre, i.e. the 6 o'clock position. While this sounds like a nice simple target to aim for, there was, you guessed it, problems and inconsistencies with how it was measured. Firstly, this measurement is taken with a goniometer with one arm along the thigh and the other arm along the shin. Most goniometers have far shorter arms than the body segments they're trying to measure, so pointing them in exactly the right direction to get a precise knee angle measurement has a very high likelihood of error, and it's very difficult to do well on your own. Second is the fact that this is taken as a static measurement. You're not actually pedaling at the time the measurement is taken, your legs are still. And unfortunately, the position that your leg adopts while at rest at the bottom of the pedal stroke is quite different to the instantaneous position that the leg has as it passes through bottom dead centre while pedaling. When does this madness all end? So, now, the gold standard that most professional bike fitters use, and the process that I was taught when I did my bike fit training several years ago, is to use motion capture video software and computer analysis to analyse the pedalling stroke. In a bike fit studio, a rider will be recorded from side on and front on, and in some cases even have a 3D motion capture system recording their pedalling action. The up-to-date research advises that an angle of between 33 degrees and 43 degrees at bottom dead centre is optimal when taken as a still frame from a video of a cyclist who is pedalling. So the centre of the bell curve then is 38 degrees. That is our bullseye target. The key point I want to reflect on here is that the previously discussed range of 25 to 35 degrees is not wrong, it is merely a measurement that was taken from a static rider position. The 33 to 43 degree range pertains to the angle that the knee is in just for a moment as the foot passes through the 6 o'clock position while the rider is pedaling. Right, finally, so we just need to take some video from side on and adjust the saddle until we get a knee bend of 38 degrees at bottom dead center. Yes, there's still a little bit more to it. One final twist. Wendy Holliday is a bike fitter and cycling science researcher from South Africa. She has published data which shows the changes in a cyclist's position during a ride and particularly with the onset of fatigue. Now we all know this, don't we? The position that you're in when you're on your bike fresh is quite different to the position 90 minutes later when you're battling to hold the wheel, you're at the limit of your energy production, and you are riding for survival. Holliday specifically points out that with fatigue, a rider will demonstrate greater ankle dorsiflexion, knee extension, lumbar flexion, trunk lean, and elbow flexion. So now we have to ask the question, do we want our bike fit position optimized for easy riding conditions when we are fresh or challenging riding conditions when we are fatigued? It makes sense to me that a bike fit should be conducted when a rider has at least a small to moderate amount of fatigue in the system, but I don't think we need them to be at the point of exhaustion. In practice, in my bike fit studio, I'll typically have a rider do a short warm-up at around about 3 out of 10 intensity and then move on to about 5 to 10 minutes at around about 5 to 6 out of 10 intensity before I take any video. So, to recap, what we are looking for when setting saddle height is to use a dynamic video analysis of a rider in a semi-fatigued state, aiming for a bottom dead center knee angle of between 33 and 43 degrees, with 38 degrees being the sweet spot. Of course, there are any number of reasons why a bike fitter might choose not to have someone's bottom dead center knee angle at 38 degrees, but going into every permutation and combination is not possible right now. But I promised you a DIY solution, and what you want to know is how can you make all of this happen at home yourself? It's actually not as hard as you might think, thanks to advances in cheap and easily available smartphone and tablet technology. You will need an indoor bike trainer, a smartphone plus computer, or ideally just a tablet with a camera, a tripod or someone else with a steady hand, a Bluetooth shutter button, and these are available from Amazon for $10. Good lighting. Trust me, it's worth dragging some extra lamps up or doing this on your porch in daylight. We'll also need some bright coloured tape and a felt-tipped pen. Set up your trainer so you have several meters of space on one side, if not both sides. Set up your smartphone or tablet on a tripod so that the lens of the camera will be level with your knee when the pedal is at bottom dead center. Make sure you are directly alongside and not forwards or backwards of where the knee will be. Also, make sure your phone or tablet is not going to enter sleep mode within 10 or 15 minutes. Now place a marker on your hip bone, the greater trochanter, with a piece of tape, the outside of your knee bone, the lateral femoral condyle, with a felt tip pen, and the outside ankle bone, the lateral malleolus, with another piece of tape. Now this is really important. Set your video function to slow motion. Then get on your bike with your little Bluetooth button, go through your 3 out of 10 intensity warm-up, and then 5 to 10 minutes at around about 5 out of 10 intensity to get that little bit of fatigue. When you are starting to feel a little bit tired, press the Bluetooth button and start recording yourself for around about 8 to 10 seconds. If you're using a smartphone to record yourself, then you'll need to transfer the video to either a laptop or a desktop computer for the sake of accuracy. Open the video on the big screen and scroll through until you find a frame that shows the crank arm on the near side exactly at 6 o'clock position, exactly vertical. Take a screenshot or a still frame of this and drag that shot across into an open browser window in Chrome. This might work in other browsers, but I haven't tested it. You can download an online protractor extension, position this directly over the image and measure the angle at the knee. Then adjust your saddle appropriately and repeat the process until you get the desired result. If you're using a tablet to record yourself, this will be a little bit quicker. Scroll through the video on the tablet until you find a frame showing the crank arm at bottom dead center, exactly 6 o'clock. Take a screen capture of this, then use an app such as Angles in Photos to find out what your knee angle measurement is. Yes, this takes a little bit of trial and error, but you will end up with a great result focusing on the metric that matters, which is knee angle. You made it. So then set and forget, right? We need to understand that your optimal bike fit position, including saddle height, will evolve over time. As you gain experience, as you have changes in your strength and flexibility, or if you develop injuries, it might look different year to year. You may even find that after going through this process at home, that your body makes adaptations that require some tweaking to this position within the first 3 to 6 months. Remember, when making any mechanical adjustments to your bike, to always use a torque wrench and not to go outside the maximum and minimum mast height for your seat post. Is there another way? There is a school of bike fitting thought that is less concerned with angles and more interested in the way the pedal stroke looks, feels and sounds. I was first introduced to this by a veteran American bike fitter named Happy Friedman. Over the course of his career, he got to use all of the whiz-bang technology, but eventually gravitated back to just using his eyes, his ears and the feedback of the rider. I think this is a very clever bike fitting process, but it's not one that can easily be reproduced at home because it relies on very high skill level and a lifetime of experience from the bike fitter. A saddle height set by this method, by a skilled bike fitter in tune with his senses, may come up with a different result to someone who's used joint angle methods. Bike fitting is a complex process and setting your saddle height is just one piece of the puzzle. If DIY is your thing, I think you can't go past the process that I've outlined here. This is as close as you can get at home to the method used in many bike fitting studios around the world. Let me know how you get on with it.